So this is called The Medium is the Matzo, and as you see I'm surrounded by matzah. What the installation aims to achieve is a three-dimensional Haggadah, and the Haggadah is the ritual text that is read at Passover, at every Seder around the world. Every Passover Seder, Jewish people read from this text, and the text takes them through the story of the Jews' liberation from bondage, from Egyptian slavery. You know, thousands and thousands of years ago. This is a very ancient story, and so every year you go through this ritual where it's a telling of the story of this liberation from oppression, really. So as a visual artist, I took license to create a visual piece out of the ritual, and a lot of my art practice involves reinventing ritual. So I'm using the building blocks of the story and of the Seder. One of them, the key symbols of the Seder, is this matzah, the bread of affliction, which the Jews had to eat because they didn't have time for the bread to rise. So during Passover, you're prohibited from eating anything that's leavened, because it's a symbol of this time. And so for the 8 days of Passover, you eat matzah. And for me, it kind of struck me that these flat pieces, they kind of look like building blocks or tiles. So as an installation artist, I transposed their use, and I'm creating a house of matzah, or a three-dimensional Haggadah. So we're right now standing in the Matzah Mitzrayim tunnel, and Mitzrayim is the Hebrew word for Egypt, but it also literally means narrow, confined spaces. So I take the visitor on a journey out of Egypt. So in the Haggadah, there's a line that says, in every generation, you yourself should feel as though you are leaving Egypt. And that was a great starting point for me, because I wanted people to experience this departure. So I created this narrow space, this Matzah Mitzrayim tunnel, so that you have this sort of sense of confinement in here. You start off in a 10-plague space, and that's sort of the beginning of the narrative. That's when the Jews were, they weren't being hit with the plagues. It was the Egyptians. So there were frogs. The Red Sea turned to blood. Locusts were brought down from the sky, and the firstborn was killed, and that's where we get the name Passover, because the Jews would mark their houses so that the angel of death would pass over their house, so that they could be recognized as not the oppressors but the victims in this narrative. So the first room that you enter is the 10 plagues room, and a video montage of the plagues comes up on 4 flat screen monitors that are going to be embedded into the first wall, and then a soundtrack comes up that lists the ancient plagues. But then what I do with the holiday to reinvent it is to contemporize it and talk about the current day plagues that we need to abolish. So we need to think about homelessness, hunger, rape of nature, global warming, AIDS, unbridled profit motive. So that's where I take liberty and license, and I'm trying to move the holiday into the contemporary moment.